Hello, my loves, and welcome back again to another episode of Native Growth. I am um sorry, so distracted by something that just popped up on my screen. I am so glad that you are here joining me today for this episode from wherever you are in time and space. Today's episode is all about the ease of creating and welcoming abundance. And I really want to be clear about that this is above and beyond just creating and welcoming in the blessings that you desire specifically. It is more about creating an abundance of those blessings. It is about how easy it actually can be to really just create and welcome that, and to welcome in not only more of your blessings but a higher caliber, a higher quality of your blessings. Um, and I just really felt called to start off today's episode by reminding everyone that, as we talked about kind of in the last episode as well, like, your true power lies in your willpower, right? It lies in your oneness with Creator. It lies in your Holy Spirit. And for Creator, for that divine that lives within you, nothing is impossible. And frankly, impossible is nothing. Like, what we can't even conceive of is a drop in the bucket for Creator, for the universe, right? And so I know definitely for me, there came a point where I really started to, get on my journey of um, healing and elevating and manifesting, like even before the manifestation part came into being for me, where I knew that if I wanted greater, if I wanted more in my life, even just through the healing part of my journey, that I needed to start by aligning my truth with that divine truth. That if something is possible, it is necessarily and absolutely possible for me, right? And I encourage you to take a moment right now to say that to yourself. If it is possible, it is necessarily possible for me. And so once I kind of got on that train, it was the premise that I built the foundation of like every stage of my healing and evolution on. And it's been the premise that I've continued to build the rest of my manifestations and abundance on. And it's part of what has made it so easy for me. Right. And so in the beginning, what it really looked like was just saying things to myself like, if it is possible to live without grief, to be happy and to love again, then it is possible for me. If it is possible to build a spiritually based business that is wildly successful, then it is possible for me. If it is possible to be a good person and also be a millionaire at the same time, then it is possible for me. Right. And so just really aligning what I knew to be divine truth with my truth. And again, it like even before I started truly getting on like the manifestation train, it was in the beginning, it was more just when I started healing my heart. And like at the time of my life that I was really just starting to fully accept and receive and step into my intuitive gifts, really deciding to hone in on those, really deciding to make those the basis of my initial business that I had started a few years ago. And also just really starting to build my business, starting to, build my client base and all those wonderful things. And at the time that this was going on, I recognized that I still was carrying around quite a bit of heavy energy. From the events of 2020, which I know were really difficult for a lot of people. I definitely had my fair share of those, which I'm very open about in other episodes, but not going to go into today. But still carrying around a lot of that heavy energy within me. And so I knew, okay, like, well, if I want to be able to create space for more, then I kind of need to offload some of this first. I need to kind of be able to create space, right, for more to flow through me, for more healing to flow into and through me, for more spirit messages to flow through me, for more lightness and happiness and joy and love to flow through me, right? Like the channel can only handle, right? Your container can only handle so much at a time. So if you want it to be able to handle more, you're going to have to clear out some things and make some space, right? It's really kind of like basic basic when we think about it in the physical way, but the same applies in the energetic world as well. And so a lot of that for me also meant coming into a place where I was just starting to believe more in myself as well. And it just wasn't until like a little later on that I realized that the clearing and the healing that I was doing at this point in time was actually laying the groundwork for the manifestation, for the ease of the abundance that was to come in later. So part of what makes manifesting things in an abundance and in such a higher quality so easy is to start laying the groundwork of clearing your channel and making space to get really clear and pristine with your energy. And so that definitely starts just by taking really good care of your body because, psychologically, emotionally, you won't feel better. You won't feel ready for those things. You won't be able to fully receive your desires, certainly not an abundance of your desires. If if psychologically you're like, no, I'm unworthy of it, I'm undeserving out of it. If you're having those doubts, and a lot of what we think and feel, especially a lot of the kind of perpetual stress that we experience on a day to day is actually a big result of what's going on in your gut and your microbiome. And so to clear your channel energetically is to clear it psychologically, emotionally is to clear it physically, right? So definitely making sure that you're drinking lots of water, lots of really good water, clear water, even mineral water too, as much as you can get it. We are absolutely energetic and electrical beings, and so we need minerals to help conduct that electricity. So drinking lots of really good water, definitely cutting back on processed foods and chemicals and sugars and things that the body just really isn't designed to digest and things that don't come from the earth, right? We can always think of what comes from the earth comes directly from spirit. So if part of cleaning that energy, getting it to a more pristine state is to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, Christ-like in a way, right? To be more holy or divine in a way is to consume and to be closer to that which comes directly from the divine, right? So eating a lot more like plant-based foods, um, especially lots of like fruits and vegetables. They are really high vibrational. They're super good for your heart and your throat chakras as well, and just helping to activate and clear and heal those areas of your energetic channel for sure. Getting regular movement, but doing it in a way that feels good for your body. So I know for me at the time, I definitely started to see myself kind of going away from doing a lot of like the weightlifting and getting more into the softness of like yoga and tai chi, and going on nature walks and hikes was definitely something that I did a lot as well at the time, because I kind of killed two birds with one stone there, right? Like I was moving my body in a way that felt good, but I was also connecting directly to the earth, grounding my energy. Also being able to just spend that time again with like divine creation, and everywhere you look outside, you see evidence of abundance everywhere. So it also kind of puts that like in sight and in mind, right? Is to be able to look at the fact that there are zillions of trees, not just one tree, there are zillions, right? And every tree has probably millions of leaves on it, or pine needles, whatever it is, right? And to be able to look at those examples of abundance absolutely everywhere that we look, and to know that if it's so important for creator to express itself as the abundance of the leaves on the trees, then why wouldn't it be also so important to express its abundance as you, right? So all of those things were really important and foundational, and building on gratitude, again, like if you're taking really good care of yourself, then you're also noticing all of the things about yourself and about your life that you're naturally really grateful for. And then like journaling to continue that process of not only being grateful but continuing the clearing process as well. So a lot of it is really just like honing in and focusing your energy, and focusing your physical self as well. And really, for me, it kind of paved the way for giving myself permission to have and experience more of what really brought me joy, more of what really just made me feel good, right? The better you take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, the better you feel. And the more you're like, oh, yeah, I really want more of that in my life. And the more that you kind of grant yourself that permission to make joy your North Star, to make feeling good be the north point on your compass for life, right? And so again, huge foundational piece there. And it the more that I did that, the more that I was focusing not just on the blessings that I already had and like what I was grateful for at the time, but even more specifically, I got more kind of like deep in the specifics, and I was like, okay, I love this, but actually it's this part of it or this quality of it that I truly love and appreciate the most. And the more that you can do that, the more that you can make those things the focus of your manifestations, right? So for me, the more that I did that, the more that I could go back to Creator to tell Creator more of what I definitely wanted, but also in the same breath, being able to make that as part of the minimum standards that I was elevating at the time, right? So for example, I had been living alone for a while, at this point. And for anybody that's like lived alone and not dated for a while and just been single and like really truly focusing on yourself, not just like saying you're doing it and then not doing it, but if you're actually doing it, then you know that it can be really easy to create a home where you feel so much peace and you feel so much joy and you feel so much love, and you have your sacred spaces and your comfy cozy spaces, and it's like kind of decorated the way you want, and you can really monitor like who you're welcoming in and who you're not welcoming in and all that kind of good stuff. And like, I obviously love, and I really love peace, and I really love joy. And so protecting those things became like a huge point of focus for me at the time as well. Like, my minimum standard is that we're not messing that up. Right. And so as I'm manifesting, especially once I started to manifest like my next home, the next version of me that maybe has like a partner or a husband, right, where I'm like co-creating life with another person, I'm like, all right, but I have already cultivated so much love and peace and joy. And so I would literally make it a point of my prayers and manifestations to say, you know what, God, yes, I am ready to welcome in a husband. I'm ready to welcome in a husband of this caliber. However, if it doesn't come with true love and peace and joy, then I don't want it. You just keep that over there. Like, this is either going to happen at minimum the way that I know that it should, according to what I deserve, by way of how much I have loved myself, or it's not happening at all. Right. And just being really clear about that. And then obviously it worked, because here I am a year later, married, and it's lovely. um, so getting back to the big picture, this first stage where I was really focusing a lot more on clearing and honing my energy, I want to be clear that this phase did take a few months. I think it's really easy for a lot of people in the manifestation space to talk very much about those pivotal moments when everything just kind of skyrockets, right? And there's not given a whole lot of credence to all of the work that went into building up to that pivotal moment, right? And so if you have also been working on any type of manifestation or, this similar types of, I guess, like inner workings with yourself or workings with spirit or what have you, and you've been focusing so much on doing what people say you should do at the pivotal moment to like really bring that into fruition right now, and then you're continuing to not see the results. I really want to encourage you to know that these things don't really happen overnight like a lot of people make them seem like they do. And that if you have not yet given more attention to yourself, to clearing that space in your energetic channel for those blessings to come in, for the abundance to come in, for yourself to be able to receive it fully, then I want you to go back and do that work. And you might only need to do it for a couple of weeks. It might take you a little bit longer. Everyone is just at different points in their lives, and everyone has already reconciled with some things and not with other things, and some things are harder to reconcile with than others. And so everyone's just gonna be taking their own divine timing with this, which Creator knows a lot more about than we do. So really trust that. Know that, go back to that, trust that, and just love on yourself for a while if the doing part, if the action taking part isn't working. Please go do that. Please go just love on yourself and work on that purity of your energy, of your channel. And so I want to add to that, there's a little fly floating around. I want to add to that like while I was working on the outline for this episode, it kind of dawned on me, that when I started on that part of the journey, it was like the more awareness that I brought to what I was focusing on, the more room I created to level up, right? But like now that I've been doing this for so long, it's like the opposite tends to be true now. Like the more that I level up, the more awareness that I naturally have to anything that's getting in my way. Right? And I think that is definitely one of those moments where things become really pivotal um because when you have that awareness to anything internal or external that's really getting in your way, you can address it so much more quickly. You can be like, oh, okay, like I want this thing, but I see that this other thing is getting in my way. I'm just going to clear it out real quick. And so it's almost like you kind of put manifestation on autopilot, right? That's one of those things that creates one of those really big pivotal moments for you. And so when so for me to build up to kind of that moment where I flipped that switch, again, it was one of those things that just took a little bit of time, but eventually it did just get so easy for me to make that flip, where how it started was I would be like writing in my journal, my manifestation journal, something that I desired or a quality that I was working on embodying, right? So for example, um, I might write down like I am, financially wealthy and completely free. And I started to notice when I would feel some kind of like a twinge in my body somewhere. I would feel a little like pinch maybe somewhere in my solar plexus, or I would feel a little tightness right at the tip of my tailbone, right? I would feel some kind of indication in my body where a program that I had been holding on to was telling me, no, that's not true. You're not financially wealthy, you're not financially free. And like, while I could definitely say at the time that wasn't true in my bank account, like we all know that how manifestation works is you believe it first, you get into the energy of it first, and then it has no choice but to come, right? And so I would be writing that down, but I would feel that feeling of like, oh, but that's not true. But in my heart, it's true. In quantum field, it's true. In divine timing, it's true. Right? So, what is this program? So, I just got really good at being in those uncomfortable moments and having those uncomfortable feelings. And I just made it a total habit of actually doing it like every single day, of pushing the boundary of what I was working on manifesting, so much so that as soon as I would feel a little twinge in my body somewhere like that, I would just sit with it and be like, okay, I hear you. Thank you so much for showing yourself to me. Where did you come from? I hear what you're trying to say, but I know that it's not true. It's not divine truth and it's not my truth. So where did you come from? And I would just sit with it. And at first, it might have taken me like a couple of days before I could dig down deep enough to find the root. But after I had done it, I mean, even just for like a week or two, I was able to get down to the root of these things within minutes. Like it just becomes so automatic and so quick that I would be like, okay, I see the root and now I can pluck the root out. And I would even practice doing that energetically, where I would ground my energy and with a deep inhale, visualize encasing that belief or that feeling in like a ball of white light. And as I exhale, allowing it to float down my channel and into the earth. Oh dear, my laptop is doing a thing right now. Are we on the same page here? We good? Okay. So again, a lot of it was really like abundance prep for a little bit until again, like things started to become more like automatic and I kind of flipped that switch. And then once I did, then I really was like, okay, now I've gotten the mindset, I've gotten the heart set, but I know that there's more to it. I know that I keep hearing people talk about taking inspired action. So what inspired actions can I take to really set things in motion towards that flow of abundance, that abundant flow, however you want to say it, right? And I've always been a person to have the absolute belief that if I really sit with myself, if I really allow myself to believe it, then I know that I already have everything that I need within me. And I've always been a person to kind of like draw parallel lines between like different ideas and spiritual ideas and all kinds of things too. And so I'm like drawing upon everything that I already know and everything I already have, right? So I start my thought process with the knowing that God helps those who help themselves. And I also know about like the universal laws, and I know that the laws are always working, they're always in motion, but also that I'm always working, I'm always in motion. And now that I'm feeling prepared for more, oh, my laptop is doing a thing again. Sorry, guys, it keeps like closing my window and then opening it again. I don't know what's happening. Um, and and now by this time I had really started to get on the manifestation train, and I know that if I'm looking for actions, right, then what I do is a reflection of who I am and how I am being. In other words, my actions are a direct reflection and a direct product of my current vibration, right? And so I thought, okay, if I want more, then I got to ask myself, how am I being with the blessings that I already have that I want more of? And how high is my vibration when it comes to the things that I want more of? Right? And so within that, I found the truth that that I really wish a lot more people knew, and so I'm going to share it right now. That we often are naturally vibrating very high in some areas of our life, and we are currently vibrating much lower in other areas of our life, right? And we can see that if we just look at different things, right? Some people might be vibrating really high in their relationships. They have really quality relationships. They're very intimate. They're very close knit. There's a give and take. There's just love and light there. And that comes really easy. But then maybe like with their finances or their career, like every time they get paid, the money just goes right out the door. Every time they go to work, they, put up with kind of being walked all over, right? They think that they have to like hustle and grind to prove that they're good enough for the higher level projects that they really want to be a part of, for example, right? And so we're operating in multiple levels of vibration at the same time. And so when I came into this clarity, I was like, wow, okay, so like I see how I'm already vibrating high in certain areas and how I'm not in other areas. And like the the truth that I really felt becoming my truth was that everything is energy. And so if I apply the same concepts that got me to the high vibration in one area, I can take them and I can apply them in another area. Right? If I am really good at loving people, it shouldn't be that hard to also really love my career. It also shouldn't be hard to love my money. If I'm really good at loving my physical body, it shouldn't be that hard to love on my ego and my spirit, right? Like, because everything is energy and we're all on equal standing. And so it really brought me to this place of like, whoa. And so the true question is really, how can I vibrate higher to attract and welcome in more, to let Creator know that I'm ready for more in those areas where I desire it, right? And and if the question is really about like becoming a higher vibration, then all we have to do is know what is a higher vibration. Well, that's easy. Love. Love is the highest vibration of all. Love and oneness. That's that's as high as a vibration as you can possibly hope to embody, right? And so, okay, well, I know that I feel love. I know what love is. And so then I was like, all right, well, how can I take that love and turn it into action? How am I how am I loving on myself? How am I loving on other people? And how can I like draw those parallel lines, right? Or like if nothing else, then maybe where can I draw some wisdom from places that I know have maybe some kind of this wisdom that I'm looking for? Well, growing up as a Christian person, growing up in the Christian church, one of the verses that I kind of like kept with me on my spiritual journey was that verse that talks about like how love is all these different things, right? And at the end it says, but the greatest of these is love. And I just love so much how that mimics what we know energetically, that love is the greatest. It is the highest vibration. I love that so much. But I also love that within that scripture, we do get a little bit more instruction on how we can make that actionable, right? We can be patient. We can be kind. We can be not envious. In other words, we can be grateful and focused on our own lane, right? We can not be boastful, which I think is really just more of a calling to ask yourself, did I get this thing because I truly love it or just because I wanted to have it for the sake of the facade, right? Like, do I really love this thing or did I get it just so I can shove it in somebody's face that I have it, right? That's kind of the calling in that not boastful part for me that I take away from it. And it keeps no record of wrongs, right? And so again, when we're talking about doing a lot of this kind of like internal work and manifestation work, it's really more so about not keeping a record of wrongs with myself. Okay, so maybe in the past I had these limiting beliefs and that caused me to make some not so wise decisions with my money and my career and my relationships and my body and whatever, right? But now I have learned. So I'm no longer keeping a record of the wrongs that I have done before when I didn't know better. Now I know better, so I can choose better, right? And I think it's also when we look at our blessings in a way of having a relationship with each one, we can also look at that as like, I'm not going to sit here and feel like I'm the victim of anything, right? Like I'm not going to keep any kind of record of wrongs of the fact that like maybe money has kind of like sometimes it's been really fruitful and abundant in my life and other times it's like I've been floating around at 20 bucks in my bank account, right? Like I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not certainly not blaming money itself. I'm not blaming rich people. I'm not, right? Like anything that is representational of the blessing I want more of, I'm not keeping any record of wrongs of anybody or anything that has anything to do with that. I hope that makes sense. That was a little bit of a rant. What matters now is that I'm focusing more on loving this, right? I'm being patient and kind, and I'm loving. And the second kind of big piece of wisdom that I pulled from was this quote that has way less words, but almost just as much instruction in it. It's from Buddha. And Buddha said that if you like a flower, you will pluck it. But if you love the flower, you will water it daily. Huh. Okay. So to love on something means to nurture it, means to water it daily. What happens when you water the flower daily? Not only does it grow and expand and get bigger, but it also drops more of its seeds everywhere so that the seeds can also continue to grow and expand and do their thing, and then they drop seeds, right? So it's not just that I'm loving this flower, it's that within this one flower, I am loving the generations of flowers that will come for millennia afterwards, right? Whoa. Okay, so if I just want to love on this one flower, if I just want to love on this one blessing, right? What does that look like? And um and so again, I had to take all of this instruction from all this ancient wisdom that I already had and simply just apply those concepts to the areas of my life where I wanted my vibration to be higher so I could welcome in more. Like, right? Like, I think we think that manifestation and abundance, and we think like being one with the universe, and like we think of these things as so much harder and more complicated than they are. I think a lot of times because we feel so separate from them, which is a lot about what I talked about in the last episode. So if you haven't listened to it, it's definitely a good precursor to this episode. Um, and so it came down to, for me, to again kind of be recognizing, okay, well, I know that up to now I have done a really good job of taking really good care of my body, of my ego, and of my soul, and of my relationships, of like the friendships and the coworkers and the loved ones that I had. And I had already started to see that care like ripple effect out into other areas of my life up to that point, because that's just how that happens. Like, I talk sometimes about different areas of life as if they're in their own individual silos, but like they all come back to us, right? So like we're not one silo. So obviously where one thing gets affected, everything else also gets affected. So if you hadn't considered that before, there's a little nugget for you. But something I knew that I had done to raise my vibration, especially when it came to my relationships, for example, was that I had absolutely retired from people pleasing, right? I was no longer spending my time and energy with people who were just looking for a life raft, and no longer allowing myself to spill my time and energy out all over the place, trying to, kind of like please everybody all the time, trying to fix problems that weren't even mine. I had retired from that, right? I was like, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm elevating my love. I'm now moving into a place where instead I am holding on to some of my energy, some of my love for myself. I'm allowing myself to rest a little bit more in between all the other things that I'm doing. And I am also being more intentional about who I'm letting in, knowing that it's okay for me to just be on like a different plane of existence as some other people. Like, instead of trying to fix their problems, I will try to empower them to fix their own problems. That was what part of what inspired me to become a coach, right? I'm going to try to empower people to fix their own problems. But if they're still stuck in like a victim mindset, they're never going to see that potential where I see their potential. And so I'm not going to continue wasting my time. And so in that same breath, I also retired from playing small, like in every room that I walked into, in my job, in my business, in my relationships with my family. Like, I kind of quit playing small. I started really owning more of my gifts, owning more of my zone of genius. I started taking up more space and being heard. And anytime I thought that I had something really valuable to add, instead of keeping it to myself and saying, well, but like you're not the COO, so like that's not your place to say it, I was like, hey, this could be really helpful. It might not be, but like no one's gonna get hurt if I just bring it up, right? And so going on that kind of same train of thought, I really practiced being more present and more mindful with obviously with myself. I talked about that already, but with my coworkers, in my relationships, and just in situations in general, so that I could really kind of see more of like a bird's eye view of what was going on in my life and in other people's lives. And that be like doing all of those things really played into an epiphany that I had like a couple months down the road into this, where I was like, oh, you know what? Like this is all so that I can live with even more joy, right? And so setting elevated standards and boundaries and being more mindful of energy that's coming in and going out and how you're circulating and where you're circulating it to and all of those things, it helps you to be aware that what you're essentially doing is you are giving yourself inherent permission to only put your energy where that good energy is going to come back to you, right? If I'm no longer working in places that don't want to hear my ideas, then I'm choosing to work in places where I know that I am valued and they appreciate the value that I bring. Right? Essentially, I'm stepping away from things that are not symbiotic and synergistic, and I'm only going towards things that add value, that add happiness, that add joy, that add energy, money, experiences, right? I'm focusing more of my energy to allow space for more of that goodness to come to me and to be shared through me, right? Like, I hope that that makes sense. And so there were all of these wonderful elements that started just naturally forming on their own and started forming in all kinds of ways that like I didn't even expect, right? Like this was where like really focusing my energy created that pivotal moment of like all of a sudden within a matter of 4, 6, 8 weeks, like I found myself, dropping projects that weren't serving me and focusing more on my job and my business, the things that were serving me, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I had like word of mouth about my energy healing services and my intuitive services got out, and like people I didn't even know were calling me for sessions. Other metaphysical shops were reaching out to me asking if I could come offer sessions for a day. Um, Clients that I had, they were tipping me. They were tipping me big. They were tipping me like up to 100% of the cost of their service. Like all of a sudden, I'm paying down debts that I've been trying to scrape away for months or years. Like all of a sudden, I'm able to take way better care of Leo and of myself. All of a sudden, I'm finding this beautiful, wonderful husband who like I meet and we have this organic connection, and 6 weeks later I move in, and so I left my apartment to move into a house, right? And it's like so definitely in part of what can create that pivotal moment that can make your abundance really easy is also being open, super open to things happening in ways you didn't expect. Right? Like in my mind, kind of up to that point, I would have been like, oh yeah, like when I move out of my apartment, it'll be into my own house. And that's going to take me a while to like build up the financial foundation for that to happen. But because I started to just focus less on the how and more on just appreciating and loving on what I had that was right in front of me at the time, the less I worried about the how and the when, and the and then all of a sudden, like, it didn't even matter, like, God just totally opened up my pathway for this abundance of blessings to come in ways that I, like, totally had never even thought that they could. And I think that that is one of the most awesome things about living this life. Yeah. Mhm. I think that when things happen so beautifully and then so unexpectedly, it's like I feel like the heavens open up and God pokes his head out and he's like, "Surprise!" It's like and you're like, "Oh my god, thank you. Thank you, thank you." Like, I had no idea this was gonna happen, let alone like this, but here we are, and it's awesome. And then in that moment, you have this total epiphany moment of like, it couldn't have happened any better than this, right? If I had been still so focused on forcing and trying and making it complicated and worrying about how and when and what, right? Like if I had done all of that stuff, yeah, I probably could have eventually like, gotten out of my apartment and maybe moved into my own like tiny house was kind of my idea at the time. Like I'm going to move into a tiny house and maybe I'll plop it on a few acres somewhere and start a little homestead of my own and like be alone, right? But like then when it all happened and it all came together, I was like, this is way better than anything I could have imagined in my mind. This is way better than like what I was thinking was going to happen. And it happened way faster than it would have in the timeline in my own head from what I started with months or years ago. It just, the universe has the greatest ability to blow your mind. And if we just let go of a little bit more of that control and really just allow ourselves to focus on what we have right now, that's all you gotta do. That's how easy abundance is. It's just like, okay, I have love. I have love in my heart. I have love in my heart for this. I have love in my heart for my desires, and I know that they are worth me giving my energy and attention and intention to. And so that's where I'm just gonna put my focus and like letting go of the rest. The universe will blow your mind every time in every way. And so if you take nothing else away from this episode, which I know is a little bit longer than normal, if you take nothing else away from this episode, please take that away. That abundance is really super easy. A magnificent life beyond your wildest dreams is really easy. And all it takes is for you to simply do and be the best that you can with what you have with a loving heart. That's it. That's all you got to do. It's super easy. And miracles just come out of nowhere. It's amazing. So please do that. Please focus on that. I hope that you found this episode so nourishing. I found sharing it so nourishing. If you loved it, please subscribe to the channel, listen to some of their episodes, share share this episode with people you love that you know will get a lot out of it as well. And if you feel called to, I would really love to hear from you personally. I would really love to get an email from you or a DM, just like anything you want to share, maybe like a memory that this sparked for you or an epiphany you had, or anything like that. Or if you are just looking for a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help along the way, a little pump draft, just shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to set up either individual or package of sessions with you. That can happen in a number of ways, but I'm honored to just be here of service. I love you all so very much, and I hope you have the best, most blessed week. And being the 1st of August, I hope that you have the most blessed month. Next week is the Lionsgate portal. It's going to be out of this world. So get ready for it. I love you so much. Have a great day. Mwah.